I am Jim Root, your host for the night. Pleased to be joined by former Murray State and Iowa State head coach Steve Prohm. A little less pleased to be joined by Stadium insider Jeff Goodman, but he's here as well. You know, I guess we got to deal with it. Fellas, we had an intriguing slate before the night tonight, but I would say some of these games didn't end up as close as we expected. One of those is Gonzaga. They've taken it to San Francisco tonight. Been up by 15 basically the entire second half. Don's starting to make a little bit of push late here, just forced a timeout with 3.5 minutes left. But Steve, we'll go to you first here. I mean, this Gonzaga team, they basically answered every single test that's come their way in league play. They've blown everybody out. How do we feel about this team going towards March right now? Is it bad that they haven't been tested, or are you more impressed that they've dominated every single team like this?
Honestly, because of the way they play their non-conference schedule and the amount of teams they play in the non-conference that are legit top 10, top 15 teams, and they play them everywhere. They played them, home, Texas. They play neutral. They've been tested in every form or fashion. And so I'm impressed to go through that league and be as, dominating, to where now Dons are making a little push. It's 11 right now. But to be comfortable up 15, really most of this second half, and to do it consistently throughout the whole West Coast Conference League, I'm very, 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 very impressed with what Mark Few and his team has done.
Yeah, Jeff, how about you? I mean, is this kind of like to the point where there's going to be obviously tons of comparisons made between last year's Gonzaga team, this year's Gonzaga team? To me, last year felt like it was the offense. That was the story game after game. This team can win in a few more ways. Obviously, it's been offense tonight against San Francisco, but the defense locked down for kind of the final 30 minutes. The defense against St. Mary's was terrific. So do you think that adds an element to them come March because they have a little bit more different ways to win?
Yeah, I mean, you got Chet. You got that length that you didn't have last year, and it kind of cost them against Baylor. Timmy, the one thing with Drew Timmy is he's got trouble scoring against length as well. So I think Chet and Timmy work so well together. But I think the other thing was going into the year, I wasn't sure. And I remember going out for their game against Texas and even talking to a few in their staff a little bit. And their concern was like, are we a good enough, shooting team from three? And tonight, I think they're 10 to 20, maybe something like that. And they've made enough, throughout the year collectively. I mean, Chet is shooting the hell out of the ball this year. Like that is probably the biggest surprise is Chet started off slow shooting it from deep, but he's been absolutely, sensational, and he doesn't fall in love with it. It's not like he's jacking 8 threes a game. He picks his spots. He gets good looks. Obviously, he can rise up over anybody, especially in the WCC. My biggest question, Jim, is did we overrate the WCC? Is it not as good to where Gonzaga is looking better now because BYU isn't what we thought they were? USF is a fringe tournament team, and St. Mary's I saw in person. They're good, but they're not like your typical St. Mary's team that Randy Bennett's had in the past with, a bunch of pros, maybe not NBA guys, but pros.
Yeah, seeing them up close, I saw them out here in Vegas too. They're so solid. They don't make any mistakes, that St. Mary's team, but they don't feel like they have the gear to go at a team like Gonzaga. They're not going to bring it the same way somebody like Alabama or Duke did to Gonzaga early in the year. Steve, I want to ask you with this Gonzaga team and with the added element of Chet that they have as rim protector they didn't have last year, how would you attack Gonzaga? I mean, everybody's trying to come up with a game plan for him in that league, but entering the tournament, even with like a quick turnaround, what would you do against this Gonzaga team?
Yeah, I think the one thing that Jeff touched on is right, with just Chet around the basket and his length and his ability to change shots and not just block shots. Sometimes, great big men, they just change shots, and just your pure presence can mess with guys. I mean, I've seen it for years. And so I think the biggest thing you've got to do, and I think you saw Baylor do it at the end of the year last year, is you've really got to spread them out. You got to put them in rotation. You got to get those bigs away from the basket, whether that's Timmy, whether that's Chet, and put them in position where they've got to be out on the perimeter. and open up the floor to where you can put pressure on them, because to beat Gonzaga, in my opinion, you've got to be efficient on the offensive end of the floor in order to slow them down in transition. If you turn the ball over, if you're shooting quickly or shooting poor shots, they are a burst of speed in transition. They can run wings. And Jeff touched on the one thing the coaches were worried about. If you told me my team's going to shoot 38% from three as a team for the year, I'd probably be pretty excited, from that standpoint. I mean, we were ranting and raving about Baylor last year, and they were plus 40. They were elite. When you go down the table and you're mid 40s, I think they were. I'm not exactly sure if it was 43 or 45, but if your weakness is 38% from three as a team, then you're really, really good offensively. And so I think you've got to spread them out, whether that's in pick and roll or just 5 out, open the floor and get Chet and Timmy away from the basket as much as possible.
Yeah, I think the point about being efficient offensively is huge, because we see the transition offense and how deadly it is, and we think, all right, teams should just walk the ball up against them. But really, you got to kind of play your game, and it's more about not taking bad shots, not turning the ball over to keep them out of transition. It's not, you can't totally avoid running with them, or you're going to miss out on a lot of easy baskets, especially with a backline rim protector like they have. So yeah, Jeff, you kind of brought it up. Is Gonzaga this good because the rest of the WCC is a little weaker? I mean, you said you've seen some of these teams in person. Is it gotten to the point where you're a little maybe not sure they've been tested the last couple of months?
I don't think they've been tested that much, but I don't think it matters. Okay. Like, everybody's going to talk about it. That's always the easy talking point, right? Well, they played against nobody for however long, and now they're going to go to the tournament and, jumping up. I don't think that's going to be the case. I really don't. I think this team fits very well together. That's one of the things. I actually think last year when you had Suggs and Nembhard, I almost felt like the ball needed to be in Nembhard's hands more last year than it was. It was in Suggs's hands more. And it didn't matter. Listen, you were going against Baylor. They were the best team in the country.
Yeah, no.
They were at a different level. There is not that team this year, right? There's not that dominant team. So I think Gonzaga, when you look at it, you've got that pure point guard Nembhard. He's running the team all the time, other than when he's out and Hickman's running it for a few minutes. But, Bolton shot it well enough. And Steve, you know him well. Yeah. Like, not a great shooter, but
he's made him this year. Yeah, he's made
right. And a lot of these dudes are getting uncontested shots because, again, when you have Timmy and Chet, what do? I love Julian Strawther. Nobody talks about this kid. And I'm telling you, I think he can be an NBA player down the road. I really do.
Yeah, he's done his best Kispert impression, being the guy that just buries the open shots close to 50%. I mean, you mentioned Holmgren's shooting too. He's leading the entire conference in 3-point percentage and block rate. Like, to have a guy that does both of those things, that's absolutely ludicrous. Just adds a gear that they really didn't have last year. I thought early in the season, maybe a weakness for them was defending off the dribble. I thought Alabama and Duke kind of took advantage of them a little bit in that regard. But I think Holmgren has sort of asserted himself even more so as a rim protector than he did at that point in the year. It feels like they've assimilated more into their roles. They've gotten used to playing together. And at this point, man, they certainly are the juggernaut that they're made out to be. What about San Francisco, Steve? I mean, a team that we were talking about pre-show doesn't have the really high level wins, the Q1A, if you will, for bubble purposes, but the teams they've beaten that they're relying on, like UAB, probably not a tournament team. BYU sliding out of the tournament. Santa Clara is some of their good wins. They're not a tournament team. Do you feel like the team is the Dons are legitimate, or are they kind of a little bit more smoke and mirrors at this point?
Well, I think they're a very good basketball team. I mean, there's no question about that. I don't think that's the debate. I think the debate is, are they a 10, 11, 12 seed? Are they one of those last, 4 to 8 teams that get into the NCAA field? And I think when you go back and kind of look at everybody's bracket, they're sitting on the edge right now in that 10, 11, 12 range when you look at it. And these was the pop game for them tonight, I thought, when I'm looking at it, to where, hey, you can solidify yourself tonight. You got Gonzaga at home, a place over the years. Gonzaga's played some tough games over there. this was an opportunity for them. And I thought, I hadn't seen the final score yet. I knew they had got it down to 10, but if they ended up getting beat right here, do we have the score in front of us? This is an opportunity missed for them, in my opinion. But obviously they've done a tremendous job out there. Very impressed with the team, but games like Loyola on the neutral floor, this one tonight, I think those are some opportunities missed that they didn't get.
Yeah, they're the only way they feel comfortable on Selection Sunday at this point. Now they're probably going to be slotting into the 4-5 game against BYU in that tournament, and they're going to get another shot at Gonzaga. And if they don't get that one, they go down in the semis, then they're going to be sweating. There's just not a whole lot of meat on the bone there. Jeff, what about BYU? I mean, they have certainly slid down the bubble a little bit. I mentioned they probably be playing San Francisco and maybe a loser is out type of game in the WCC tourney. Do you think they can find it at this point, or have they just, they've lost too much in the inside with some of their injuries?
Yeah, I think the injuries to their bigs, they're a different team since then, right? I mean, it's almost like if you're looking at them as the committee, you've got to look at them this way. And since they lost them, they're clearly not a tournament team. So I don't know how you justify putting them in unless, again, they beat San Fran in that game and then probably give Gonzaga a hell of a game, because I don't know how they beat them. I mean, I've seen St. Mary's beat Gonzaga in the WCC tournament, but it's rare. And I don't know if this team gets beaten by this BYU team or this San Francisco team. I just think they're so far a class ahead of everybody else in this league right now, St. Mary's included. And again, I think Randy Bennett's such an elite coach. He maximizes his talent about as well as anybody in the country. But yeah, to me, BYU, listen, this could end up being a 2-bid league at the end of the day. After all, we were talking about a four-bid WCC. It could very well be, if things break the wrong way, a 2-bid league.
Yeah, and I think the reason why that is because Gonzaga is going to run the table in the league.
Right.
If Gonzaga goes 16-2 in the league, it opens up the door for that third or fourth team. If they go 18-0, it makes it tougher. But when you talk about that league and you go Mark Few, Herb Sindek, Mark Pope, Randy Bennett, Golden, that top, and the list goes on in that league. It's terrific league. Yeah. But I thought somebody had to answer the bell, in that 3, 4, 5 slot against Gonzaga to really, really lock themselves in.
Yeah, I mean, there were always jokes about maybe the ACC's one bid, but Duke's lost games, and that's helped teams get in position to make the tournament.
Now ACC's getting about 7, it looks like.
Yeah, they're stealing them from everybody else. They're going from WCC to ACC, switching coasts on us.
Man, we can't have that. We can't listen. We cannot. If the ACC gets more than 5 in, there should be a damn investigation into the selection committee. Yeah, somebody should be fired.
Yeah, I just wish at some point, though. I know we've got all these NETs and RPIs and the BPIs and quad 1 win, quad 2. At some point, that selection committee's got to sit down and watch. Hey, man, let me watch Indiana play. Let me watch San Francisco play. Let me watch Belmont play.
If it's close, right? I agree. Yeah, I agree. If it's close, you're going to be dealing with about 10 schools for 4 spots. And honestly, it's going to be kind of like trying to pour over the difference in resumes you can justify with the net here or quad 1 wins here or, the KPI here. You're right. At the end of the day, maybe it comes down to I saw this team and you know what? I think they can actually win a game in the tournament.
But if the net, how does the net really factor in? You wonder where, and the only reason I know this, it flipped it up on TV. Like Murray's a 27 net. They beat Belmont tonight. Maybe they move up higher.
Oh yeah.
Is that going to be equivalent to their seed? So that's my biggest thing.
It shouldn't be if you look at Providence and Wisconsin.
No, it shouldn't be. And it hasn't been. It hasn't been over the years, especially if you look at the last year, some 72, 73 net teams got in and some 42, 43 net teams got left out.
Yeah. And we may talk a little more Murray State later on after their big blowout over Belmont. Right now, we're going to get to break. When we come back, we're going to talk Illinois, Ohio State, Buckeyes have been really impressive on the road. Brad Underwood just got ejected. Got to get some takeaways for what's going wrong with the Illini. We'll be right back here on Sirius XM Channel 84.